Friends, happy Monday. I'm glad to be back. I have been out on vacation. My husband and I had our anniversary last week, and we decided to go to North Shore in the hopes of escaping the heat. But we actually had really hot temperatures up there. It's supposed to normally be in the 60s and 70s up there along the North Shore of Minnesota, which is north of Duluth. Um, and it was unseasonably warm, but somehow we survived. None of the places up there have air conditioning, and so the little townhome that we stayed in had nice amenities, but it was definitely warm. So, but we got to see like 7 different waterfalls and get some hiking and walking in and just spending time together. So it was a really great relief, a way for us to just be together and not be sad all the time about Christina. So okay, so tonight I'm going to be playing with the Green and Gold, Season of Green and Gold Designer Series paper and the Greetings of the Season bundle. Um, Actually, I'm going to be using a little bit of the Sweet collection, actually. But we're just going to make a simple card, and then I'm going to show you how to just step it up a little bit. And this template is right from your annual catalog. So if you want to join me, I'll show you where I'm talking about. So the annual catalog has all kinds of little areas where they have step by step, they have quick and easy section, which is for these ephemera packs and pre-made. And then there's the mix and match. And so they've got all these little templates of different cards. So you can see that there's a bunch of different card designs just in this area. But if you go just one more page over, down on the bottom of page 22, there is this section that has all of these great templates of different card designs. And then if you go through, and then here's like 4 of them. And if you go through, you'll see like this one. Actually, this is the first one, and they've just changed it up a little bit. And then this is another design. So you can take a look at that. And then this is the next one, and this is the next one. And when you go through the catalog, you'll find up at the top, let me just bring this up a little bit closer to you, there will be a little icon here that shows you which card design they're using for one of the cards here. And I just think that's such a great idea because you can see it in action and you can see that you don't have to keep it exactly as it's shown. Tonight I'm going to try to keep it somewhat exact, but I just want you to see that there's other options that you can do. Okay, so one of the great leaders that I get to associate with put together this compilation of all those templates because there's no measurements, and she gave them measurements. So this is the one that we're using for tonight. It's the first one, top left of the catalog right here. So we're going to do this one. And I'm just going to keep proceeding to do these different ones in the next however many weeks it takes me to get this done. Okay. So using this as a template, and this of course is larger than life, we're working with a much smaller card. So I'm going to use an A2 card side, which is a half of an 8.5 by 11. So normally this is 8.5 by 11. I score it and I cut it in half. So I'm just going to start there. And then I cut a 4-inch by 5.25 piece of designer series paper. So you can see the paper here, but I love this check so much, or this plaid. I'm going to use that. Now, normally I don't cut my designer series paper to fit full on my cards because when you have a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and let me show you the designer series paper real quick. So this is the Season of Green and Gold designer series paper. And as you can tell, it's just lovely. And it's got all this gold foil on one side. And then on the other side are just a bunch of different pattern papers that have green on the back. So you can see there's just all these different patterns. But on the front, you can see all this gold and green. So it's just stunning and a really beautiful bunch of cardstock. So this is what I'm using tonight. And if you remember right, I made a few weeks back a bunch of really beautiful little tags. So go back to that video and you can see that I made a bunch of these really beautiful tags that are from this suite. And if you actually go to the Season of Green and Gold and actually go to the Greetings of the Season stamp set, which has this really amazing set of tag dies, you'll see samples really close to this. But and I plan to get this up on my blog. We've had obviously, some serious interruptions because of Christina's passing, and so I'll try to get this. This is my week to try to get some stuff done for my blog, but it may take me a couple weeks to get caught up. Okay, so those were the tags that I had done, and so what I'm using is I'm using a 4 1/4, and let me show you. I meant to get this out. It's probably going to be easiest for me to show you here. So what I typically do is I cut my designer series paper when I'm going to use it for cards, especially if I'm making a multiple of them, is I will cut them into 4-inch widths across, and then I will cut them at 5 1/4, 5 1/4, and then whatever left over, which is typically about twice this size, and then I'll use this for the inside of the card. In other words, I'll put it on the inside, so you'll see me do that. But this gets me 6 cards out of one designer series paper, 12 by 12 piece of paper. So that's what I'm planning to do today. Okay, so I know this is really pretty, but I like the plaid better than a random pattern, even though it's got the gold. And you'll see that when I'm done, there's going to be plenty of gold. So this has got granny apple green and I can't remember squat right now. Mossy Meadow. Okay, so as you can see from this template, there's one large piece here, and I could have just used a plain card or some cardstock. And then I'm going to place 2 3/4 by 3-inch piece, and then 2 1/2 by 3 3/4 piece. So you can see that this is approximately what they had there, and they're both a little wonky. So neither one of them are straight up and down. In other words, it's kind of nice when something isn't exact, because then it just kind of gives it a little bit of a looser feel to it. So what I want to do is I want to pop both of these up, so I kind of know where I want it. And then I'm going to just use some, so I'm going to use my, I'm having a hard time, dimensionals to keep it in place. And what this is the same paper on both sides. So you can see that there's no difference. I'm just using the same piece of paper, and I'm just turning it over and using the other side of the pattern paper. So like I said, one side has a green pattern and the other side has the gold foil. So it's really beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to add it like so. And then I'm going to stamp using, I'm going to use Merry and Christmas. So I'm going to put Christmas on this one. I try to get it straight, but just in case I don't, I can always turn it over. And I didn't get it all. So let's try it again. Sorry if my head's in the way. It's a little piece of paper. Okay. And then I have a little piece of scrap that I'm going to stamp Mary on, and I'm going to cut that out as well, separately, because it's easier than trying to put it on the same stamp. Okay. So this, I'm going to just give it the little flags that you see there, or you can use a die if you have one. So I'm only going in about half an inch, and if you want me to, I'll get this a little closer. So I'm just snipping the center about a half an inch, and then I'm going from the corner over and from the corner over, and it does this really nice little flag, and I don't have to have a punch. So, all right, so let me use a couple of dimensionals for this. And I'm just going to place it down here, just like the template shows. You don't, obviously you don't have to do that. And then I need the Mary. So I've stamped it pretty straight. So I'm just going to use my cutter to cut this, but you could easily just snip around it. So there's a sale on Designer Series paper starting tomorrow, but it does not include specialty paper. And because of the gold foil in this, that's not part of it. So, okay, so now I'm just going to angle cut here, get rid of the little excess. And then I'm going to glue this down at an angle. Here on top. Okay, so one more thing. It's got a little bow, and there's embellishments, of course. So I'm using the frayed grosgrain river, and this was an online exclusive. And I just love grosgrain ribbon, but I love the frayed. I think that's just really pretty. So let's see if I can get this to start. Okay, here we go. Just a really pretty. And this cardstock can either be done with cream or it can be done with white, and I'm using white for this reason. Let me put this out in front so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just looping, going around, and then creating a little bow. So I have a video that's called Bows, 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 and I show you how I do a bunch of different bows. So I'm backing it out, pulling it out, just kind of playing with it until I figure out what I like. And so I'm thinking this little bow will be cute here. There's not enough room down here because I brought everything down so low. But so now, in order to get my bow to stick, typically what I do is I'll use glue dots, and I'll look at my bow and see which side I think looks prettier on the front. And then I'll place 2 or 3 glue dots. So I'll put one on each side of the little knot, and then possibly one more in the middle, just to be sure, because you don't really want your bows to be falling off before people can open them up. And I'm just going to trim this down just a smidge more. There we go. Okay. And then let's just add some red. I'm just going to add a couple of little berries here. And this is just a super simple Christmas card. Okay, So now, keeping the same concept, we're going to make one with this same design, but we're going to change up a few things. Okay, so what I've got here, oops, I forgot to glue this to the inside. Okay. All right, so now we're using the same elements, but I'm adding a little bit extra. I fussy cut one of these little sprigs, and I'm going to also die cut a bell. And I'm adding a layer of the mossy meadow. So I have, again, my card base, which is 4¼ by 5½. And I'm going to glue the mossy meadow on that, and you'll see how it just pops the color and just adds another layer of elegance. Now this is cut at 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And if you want, you can just do it 5½ by 4¼ That works as well. And then I'm going to add this plaid because I just love it. Nice thing about the glue is it lets you just wiggle things around a little bit. So you can see already that it's just kind of framed it and given it a little more pow, whatever, just really pretty. Okay, so I'm going to again use these, but I'm going to just kind of layer them maybe a little bit differently and more centered. So again, I kind of know what I want, so then I can use my dimensionals to hold it in place. You don't have to do it that way. You can, do it however works for you. But I just find it's easier than just adding glue everywhere. But you may be more selective on how you use your dimensionals. Okay, so again, I'm just going to make sure that both pieces are wonky. I think that's great. And then again, I'm going to add the Merry Christmas, but this time I want this sprig, and then I'm going to add this bell. And this die comes from the Golden Greenery bundle, and you can see it's got a little bell and this big bell, or you can die cut the stamps. So I'm just die cutting from the Designer Series paper because I think that's amazing. I love it when the Designer Series paper matches the dies. I need to bring out my stamp and cut and die machine. I'm doing the little balmy blue one. I'm not sure, or boho blue. I'm not sure if it's still available. I'm going to have to reset this. Okay. And if you're nervous about things shifting, then it's always good to add a little bit of adhesive. And this is the Post-it. It's in a tape dispenser, which I think is pretty darn cool. So this is just supposed to be a super easy card. So I'm trying not to make it too complicated, but that little extra layer just adds that much more to it. Okay. So I need my mossy meadow again. The thing that's really nice about this font is it's really pretty, but it's also, I can't tell which way is the correct way, so I'm finding that it works just great. Anyway, okay. So now we're going to do the Mary again. And I'm going to try to keep this straight as well. And then cut it down so it's smaller. So you can see I don't have much left. So I'm going to cut this at an angle so it's close to the word. And then again, I'm going to show you how I did this. So I've got a little bit more room this time. So I'm cutting up just little ways. And I want it to be in the middle. And yes, I'm just eyeballing it, but you can mark it if that would make you feel more comfortable. So makes for a really easy flagged or banner label. Okay, so we have this really pretty bit of greenery. And then I want to place the bow this time before I decide where I'm going to put everything down. Okay, so here's my bow again. I'm going to make it the flags a little bit longer. Okay, or the tails. So I did my loop, going over my thumb and pulling it back. Till I get the bow to be the size I want it to be. And I don't want the bow to be very big, but I do want my tails to be longer. Okay, so get my glue dots. So I've got one on one side of the knot, one on the other side of the knot, and then one in the middle, just in case. And then if you want your tails to kind of stay in one place, you can always add additional glue dots. And I think I'm going to because I want them to kind of look like they're draping down straight. And then I do want this to whoops. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me get dimensional on the back of this. You'll find that I use every little bit of my dimensionals. And I'm popping these up as well. And I don't want it to overrun the edge of my card too much. That looks like a good place. And then I can overlap a little bit, not too much. Actually, I don't need one of these little glue dots or dimensionals. I need it actually to overlap. So I need to glue a little bit. Right, now to add my and again, just going to do the little berries. So you can see here that this one stayed pretty close to this, but this one I changed it up a little bit. Just you can change it around however you'd like to. And then this is the sample of this same template right here. So you can see they made these two pieces the same size and just made them a little wonky. So you can see that you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to do the label the same way as well. You just kind of pick a design and go from there. I think that another way that these cards would have been really pretty is by just putting one of my little tags on there. And I think that would have been just as pretty and added a little bit of extra. But when you're trying to keep your Christmas cards really simple to send out, then it's best to just start with a really simple, something that you can mass produce and make lots of. All right, well, that's all I have for you tonight. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'll have this template in my blog once I get that all up and running. And I'll try to get that going here shortly. Thank you for your patience. And I hope you have a great evening and the rest of your week.